Frobscuttle and whiz poppers. By now, Sophie was beginning to feel not only extremely hungry but very thirsty as well. She had been at home. If she would had she had been at home, she would have finished her breakfast long ago. Are you sure there's nothing else to eat around here except for those disgusting, smelly snozzcumbers? She asked. Not even a fizzwinkle, answered the big friendly giant. In that case, may please have a little water? She said. Water? The BFG said, frowning mightily. What is water? We drink it, Sophie said. What do you drink? Frobscottle, announced the BFG. All giants is drinking frobscottle. Is it as nasty as your snozzcumbers? Sophie asked. Nasty? Cried the BFG. Never is nasty. Frobscottle is sweet and jumbly. He got up from his chair and went to a second huge cupboard. He opened it and took out a glass bottle that must have been 6 feet tall. The liquid inside it was pale green, and the bottle was half full. Here is a frobscottle, he cried, holding the bottle up proud and high, as though it contained some rare wine. The lumptious, fizzy frobscottle, he shouted. He gave it a shake, and the green stuff began to fizz like mad. But look, it's fizzing the wrong way, Sophie cried, and indeed it was. The bubbles, instead of traveling upwards and bursting on the surface, were shooting downwards and bursting at the bottom. A pale green froth was forming at the bottom of the bottle. What on earth is you meaning the wrong way? Asked the BFG. In our fizzy drinks, Sophie said, the bottles always go up and burst at the top. Upwards is the wrong way, cried the BFG. You mustn't ever be having the bubbles going upwards. That is the most flesh-bunking rubbish I was ever hearing. Why do you say that? Sophie asked. You was asking me why? Cried the BFG, waving the enormous bottle around as though he were conducting an orchestra. You is actually meaning to tell me you cannot see why it is a scrawdy mistake to have the bubbles flipping up instead of down? You said it was flush bunking. Now you say it's scrawdy. Which is it? Sophie asked politely. Both, said the BFG. It is flush bunking and a scrawdy mistake to let the bubbles go upwards. If you can't see why, you must be as quacky as a duckhound. By Ringo, your head must be so full of frog squinkers and buzzwanglers. I is frittered if I know how you can think at all. Why shouldn't the bubbles go upward? Sophie asked. I will explain, said the BFG. But first, you must tell me what name you is calling your frobscottle by. One is Coke, another is Pepsi. There's lots of them. And the bubbles all is going up? They all go up, Sophie said. Catastrophe, cried the BFG. Upgoing bubbles is a catastrophe dystrophy. Would you please tell me why? Sophie said. If you will listen carefully, I will try to explain, said the BFG. But your brain is so full of bug whiffles, I doubt you will ever understand. I will do my best, Sophie said patiently. Very well, then. When is you drinking this cokey drink of yours? Said the BFG. Is it going straight down your tummy? Is that right, or is that left? It is right, Sophie said. And the bubbles is going also in your tummy, right or left? Right again, said Sophie. And the bubbles is fibbing upwards? Of course, Sophie said, which means that they will all come out swish-swizzling up your throat and out of your mouth and make a foulsome belchy burp? That is often true, but what is wrong with a little burp now and again? Burping is filthsome. Us giants never do it. But with your drink, what did you call it? Frobscottle. With frobscottle, the bubbles in your tummy will be going downwards, and that could have a far nastier result. Why nasty? The BFG said, frowning. Because, Sophie said, blushing a little, if they go down instead of up, they'll be coming out somewhere else with an even louder rudder noise. A whiz popper, cried the BFG, beaming at her. Us giants is making whiz poppers all the time. Whiz poppers is a sign of happiness. It's music to our ears. You surely is not telling me that a little whiz popping is forbidden among you human beings. It's considered extremely rude, Sophie said. But you is whiz popping. Is you now a nod again? Everyone is whiz popping, if that's what you call it, Sophie said. Kings and queens are whiz popping, presidents are whiz popping, glamorous film stars are whiz popping, little babies are whiz popping. But where I come from is not polite to talk about it. Renunculus, said the BFG. Is everyone is making whiz poppers, then why not talk about it? We is now having a swiggle of this delicious frobscottle, and you will be seeing the happy result. The BFG shook the bottle vigorously. The pale green stuff fizzed and bubbled. He removed the cork and took a tremendous guggling swig. It's glummy, he cried. I love it. For a few moments, the big friendly giant stood quite still, and a look of absolute ecstasy began to spread over his long, wrinkly face. Then suddenly the heavens opened, and he let fly with a series of the loudest, rudest noises Sophie had ever heard in her life. They reverberated around the walls of the cave like thunder, and the glass jars rattled on their shelves. But most astonishing of all, the force of the explosions actually lifted the enormous giant clear off his feet like a rocket. Whoopee! He cried when he came back down. Now that is what whiz popping is for you. Sophie burst out laughing. She couldn't help it. Do you have a cup? Have some yourself. Do you have a cup? Sophie said. No cups, only bottle. Sophie opened her mouth, and very gently the BFG tipped the bottle forward and poured some of the fabulous frobscottle down her throat. And oh my gosh, how delicious it was. It was sweet and refreshing. It tasted of vanilla and cream, with just the faintest trace of raspberries on the edge of full flavor. And the bubbles were wonderful. Sophie could actually feel them bouncing and bursting all around her tummy. It was an amazing sensation. It felt as though hundreds of tiny people were dancing a jig inside of her and tickling her with their toes. It was lovely. It's lovely, she cried. Just wait, said the BFG, flapping his ears. Sophie could feel the bubbles traveling lower down her tummy, and then suddenly, inevitably, the explosion came. The trumpets sounded around her and made the walls of the cavern ring with the sound of music and thunder. Bravo! Shouted the BFG, waving the bottle. You was very good for a beginner. Let's have some more.